What is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody's good. We're dialing in another pod because we love to talk football. I got my man Eric Sojash in the house. What's going on, buddy? How are you feeling?
Feeling great, man. It's a bye week for my Eagles, so we're relaxing. I got my green on. I got my festive toque in the background. It's a great week, man. Great week to be Eagles fan. Great week for football. I can't believe it's week 10. That's the only sad part. It's the fastest season of my life. I cannot deny that. It's been so fast. But outside of the speed of the season, I'm loving it, man. How about yourself?
Look at this guy, man. He's all, rubbing it in. His team is doing good. Our team, the Bills, they're not doing so well. It hurts, man. I feel like I got knives in my back, and this guy's got green everywhere. He's happy. He's chilling. He's already in the, festive spirit of Christmas. Oh, man, I can't. It's been tough. I'm not going to lie to y'all, man. To be a Bills fan right now is extremely difficult because you're like, what the hell is going on with this team? Why is it failing? Why can't you fix it? Is it Josh? Is it the offensive coordinator? What is it? Like, you're trying really hard to understand why there's no consistency in this team, and it's driving me crazy, man.
Yeah, I don't get it because it feels like when you guys feel like your back's against the wall and you're forced to play up-tempo, you're forced to put something together, you do it every time. And sometimes you do it in like record-setting time, So I really don't understand what the issue is until you're forced to do something, why the Bills seem to just tread so slowly or play like they have no sense of urgency. You think after the last few seasons with the disappointing endings and then the offseason that you had with Stephon Diggs, that the one thing you guys would have is urgency. So that's the one thing I really don't get.
Yeah, the up-tempo thing. I wish they would just do the K-gun offense. Be up-tempo the entire time. Who cares if you're not getting first downs? Because I think McDermott was saying something like, we didn't get first downs or plays to, keep the up-tempo. Just keep the up-tempo going, man. Try to figure it out through that way. I don't know. It's tough, but we had some crazy contests this past week, man. We're talking spreads. I went 10-4, y'all. 71% on the spreads this past week. Dollar bills stacking the bank accounts. Hopefully I helped you guys as well. We got a ton of games to talk about, man. It's Houston versus Cincinnati. It's a good one. I mean, a lot of chatter going on with CJ Stroud and, the unbelievable play of Stroud. Texans coming off a massive comeback. I mean, Stroud in fantasy football? I mean, he's killing it. 43.3 fantasy points this past week. Found your boy, Tank Dell. He is, I was a huge supporter too, but this guy over here was preaching up the Tank Dell business. But, I mean, the Texans got 23 players on the injury report as of today. It is insanity. I mean, okay, the Bengals hold off the Bills on Sunday Night Football. Chase dealing with a back injury. I mean, but how impressive has CJ Stroud been? I think we got to kind of go in that mode because he was my guy, and he's showing it, and the maturity and everything he's doing. His presser breaking down the last 2 minutes of the game, something, I mean, take that Wonderlic test and throw it in the garbage because he's a smart young man.
Yo, Stroud, you nailed that one. You and I got to give Chris Sims a little props on that. I don't usually give him too many props for his predictions. He was completely wrong about my boy Hurts, but he was all over the CJ Stroud train from day one, said he's the consensus number one for him, and I think it's undeniable so far. I think he's only going to separate further. That's no shot at Bryce Young. I just think Stroud has that team rallying behind him. He has the city. He's got the locker room. And then he already shown that he's got the aptitude, take the Wonderlic test, like you said, and throw it out. He's got the aptitude to play at this level and beyond. And the irony of this game is that he's kind of the Joe Burrow comparison, right? There are some people that were high on Stroud, that was the comparison, that he can truly assess a defense from the pocket, pre and post snap. And he's very accurate with the ball from the pocket, deep routes, intermediate and short. So, like, both of these guys, it's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch this game just in terms of the quarterback play, just to see elite quarterback play on both sides of the ball. I'm very, very interested to see that matchup.
Yeah, it's exciting because now finally, it takes some rookies a little bit of time. And, everyone 2 weeks ago was saying on the start to sit and waiver wire shows, everyone 2 weeks prior was suggesting it was Tank Dell week. It was time for the breakout, fantasy points galore, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, pump the brakes just a tad. It's documented on that start sit, man. I was like, he's coming off the concussion, y'all, and he's going to have to wait and get his legs back under him. Maybe the target share is not going to be there, and it wasn't. And then this past week, I said, now's the time. We're about the halfway point. What do we have in Tank Dell? It's kind of like you're reading the way that teams try to, integrate their players. And, man, it just had Tank Dell week written all over it. Will he be able to do it again and replicate the same success? Now we're in the realm of suggesting, are they going to do this little, 1 week Nico, 1 week Tank Dell, keep teams guessing because, I mean, not everybody's going to eat every single week like a Stephon Diggs, like a CMC. It just doesn't work that way in the NFL. But in this contest versus a beatable secondary, you want to say, for the Bengals, even though that pressure does come from that front seven quite well, I'm very curious to see how Stroud does hold up. And, I mean, the Bengals, I forgot to mention, -7, they are favored. ATS-wise, Houston 4-4, Cincinnati 4-3-1. So, I mean, when you're talking about how this game should unfold, it's very, very interesting with Cincinnati being at home, coming off a big win versus the Buffalo Bills. How will this rookie hold up on the road? I'm definitely going to be watching with peeled eyes.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be a fantastic matchup, I think, just because you got studs everywhere. Unfortunately, Jamar Chase's back injury. They haven't ruled him out, but I think he's going to miss this game personally. Just a gut feeling on that one. But Tank Dell, man, I was high on him. This kid is electric. To me, he's the mini Tyreek. He just needs to get on a bigger meal plan, and you'll see. Everybody will see the comparison that I'm talking about. But from the college tape, I was saying, like, this guy is amazing. Like, not just a kick returner, not just a gadget player. I think he can run all the routes. You saw in the game, he was a walk-off touchdown. He got the stem route that he hit on the corner there and just peeled it in. It was ridiculous. His hands are better than people think, too. I don't think people talk about his hands enough for such a small guy. I'm a big Tank guy. You know that from jump. But this matchup, I don't know if the fantasy-wise he's going to have that type of eruption. From my assessment, what they're doing over there, outside of the concussion, I think they are doing the 1 week, this guy feasts, next week somebody else. Dalton Schultz is finally picking up his target share and his acclimation. I think he's going to be one of the most consistent target holders in that offense, personally speaking. They got no run game to speak of, so they're going to keep relying on this offensive game and CJ Stroud. But for this matchup, I personally think I'm going to lean Houston. I'm going to go with +7 on Houston for this one. I think based on how they played, based on my research, week 2 was the last time they've had a game that was more than 7 points apart. So I think that's when they lost to Indianapolis Colts. Maybe they were caught off guard by Anthony Richardson and everything he could do, right? So that was a little bit of a mismatch there. Other than that, they had the week 1 where there's his first game. You're going against the Baltimore Ravens, which we've all seen what they are. They're legit, especially on defense. So I give them a watch for that one. Week 2 is the Anthony Richardson game. They lost that game, I believe, 31-20, if my memory serves me correct. Since then, every game has been a very tight game, or they've won or they've dominated. So I really like Houston coming in this matchup to at least keep it close, especially without Jamar Chase. So yeah, I'm going Houston +7 on this one. I like that. I like that play, and I just like the way the offense is going. It's going to mix the ball around. Dalton Schultz, like I said, he's picking it up. Nico Collins is a real thing. People get behind Nico, and then like we just been talking about all show, Tank Dell, unbelievable talent.
Why can't I get behind the Nico Collins train? I don't know what it is. I'm
Get behind it.
I'm running beside the train right now is what I'm doing. I'm trying to jump on. I'm allowed to jump on. I almost feel like, do I want to take this train? It's kind of where it's at for me. I like Nico. I think he's a good talent. I just don't know if he's the talent that can take over the contest when called upon without someone like CJ Stroud. I don't know. It's just one of those things with this guy. No disrespect. I think he's a fabulous talent. He's absolutely shown it this year. But, I mean, I really want to see how they're going to utilize. I agree with you 100% when it comes to the Dalton Schultz argument, because without a run game, they actually finally figured it out and said, okay, to hell with it. We're just going to recreate the run with Dalton Schultz in the short game. And that's kind of been working a little bit more. You would love to see some insertion of some play-action pass in this offense. It's just one of these things with this offense that I think Stroud is so good. They have so many playmakers on this offense already, and we haven't even talked about it, Mechie. We haven't even talked about it, Xavier Hutchinson. And Robert Woods has been out with injury. So when he comes back, how does this impact guys like Tank Dell? How does this impact guys like Nico? Does Nico go back to the number 1? Does Robert Woods take over where Tank Dell was? How does target share? It's very interesting. I'm almost at the point of suggesting, if I'm DeMeco Ryans, I think you make Tank the guy, and now Robert Bobby Trees has got to be the guy to sit. It has to be. You're so much more electric of a playmaker. We're not even talking about Noah Brown, for God's sakes. Ohio State Buckeye, former Dallas Cowboy, he's finally picked up his game. Okay, we all were here saying, okay, he doesn't belong in the Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave conversation from OSU wide receivers. But man, did he look damn good this past week? And I can't argue it anymore.
Especially with the ball in his hands, man. He's getting yak, like ridiculous yak. I like how he surprised me. I really like what he's turned into, and that's just another weapon that they didn't even need. They have a plethora of weapons. They finally started using Xavier, who's one of your guys, and getting him involved, just even on like some side sweeps and wide receiver sweeps. I've noticed that just to get the ball in his hands. So they have so many guys they feel like are mismatches, can do so many things with the ball in their hands. But I agree with you in terms of Tank being the 1A. I think Nico should be the 1B. But in terms of like consistency, I just don't think either of them are at that level or have that ability quite yet where they could do like what an AJ Brown is doing or what a Tyreek Hill has done or like a Stephon Diggs, as you mentioned earlier, where it's week in, week out. He's getting the ball and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't think those guys are quite at that level yet. So it's good for them to lean on, the plethora of talent that they have where it's all about CJ. It's not really about the receivers, where Tank does have the ability to explode, but I don't think it's going to be a week in and week out thing. It's going to be Tank this week, next week Nico, next week both of them. Next week you're going to mix in some Noah and some Dalton because those guys are blowing up, especially like we were saying with the Yak. But yeah, I really like what they're doing over there. We both love them coming into the season defensively. This offense has actually exceeded my expectations already. And a caveat here, preseason, you know what the over-under was for the Houston wins? I do because I bet it.
3?
It's 4.5 wins.
Yeah, okay.
4.5 wins, like 2 months or a month and a half before the season started. Easiest bet, I thought. The easiest bet.
Easy
Just
money.
based on what they did last year, how they played Philly, how they played Kansas City. They lost those games, but how they played them with the quarterback that they had, Davis Mills. I was like, oh, come on. They can't win 4 games in that division? Smash the over.
100%. I'm with you. And the way that they've built this team, unbelievably. I'm with you. +7, Houston Texans. Let's go, especially if Jamar Chase is not going to suit up in this contest. I'm actually hitting that even more, and I think that spread will change as we get closer. Obviously, my final spread picks are on Twitter on Saturday, but, I mean, I'm feeling pretty comfortable here as we're leaning into Thursday of, Houston +7 on that line. I'm a big fan. CJ Stroud was my guy to the moon, you guys, because I love every talent they have on that offense. But, I mean, these Saints, let's talk these Saints and these Minnesota Vikings, because there's a lot of good things to discuss on them. I mean, the Saints, they were in a rough battle versus the Chicago Bears this past week. Are they legitimate? Are they kind of pretending? Do they play down to their competition? I mean, it was quite a letdown for me. I thought this team was going to absolutely destroy the Bears. Did not happen. And then on the other hand, you got the Vikings with Jaron Hall getting knocked out with the concussion, and the savior, Josh Dobbs, basically right off the trade market, off the street, comes in, didn't even know anybody on the team. Doesn't even know the playbook. He's on the sidelines, practicing his cadence with the offensive linemen, trying to get them on the same page. He comes and freaking brings them all the way back. 21-day window actually just opened up for a JJ as well, and apparently he's super pumped to be playing for this team this week. I mean, the spread as it goes right now, the Saints are favored 2.5 going into Minnesota. It's one of those spreads that Vegas trying to bait us into something, and I'm pretty firm on where I'm going with this one.
Yeah, this one's very interesting, man. Josh Dobbs. Remember, we were just talking about him on the last pod we did together.
Yeah.
And I was saying I really think he's going to be able to acclimate quickly to that team just because of his aptitude. They were saying how much of an intellect he is, right? And then we've seen how quickly he transitioned from Cleveland to Arizona, and now from Arizona to Minnesota. This guy's impressive. And then who knew he was Mike Vick reincarnated? Like, who knew? Like, I couldn't believe the runs he was making. I couldn't believe, like, over and over and over again. There was a moment near the end of the game where, because I had Atlanta's defense in fantasy football for the reasons that I thought they were playing against Jaron Hall. So I started him in a couple leagues. So I was literally standing there cheering, thinking I got a sack to win the game and cover and all of that. And this man broke the sack,
360.
broke another sack, took it to the house.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on? Unbelievable performance by him. I'm just thrown away by how he could play at this level with no help. So yeah, props to him. I'm interested to see how they're going to go moving forward. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be in his ear and he's going to be helping him out. I think O'Connell's a great offensive coordinator. So everything's pointing up for Josh Dobbs in Minnesota in terms of where they were just a week ago and where they are now, in my opinion. And where he was just a week ago with his career in flux, knowing Kyler Murray's coming back, knowing he was just at a stop gate, for half a season, and then who knows what was going to happen with him. Now he gets another shot with better receiving talent, better offensive coordinating. Who knows, right? Maybe even the playoffs for them. So that's going to be interesting for him. On the flip side, man, Saints.
Mm,
I thought they would cover that game easily, especially
easily.
because they've been incorporating Taysom Hill. I've been a guy that's not a Taysom Hill fan, but you can't deny that he has an impact every time he's on the field, especially in the red zone, right? It kills you if you have Derek Carr. It kills you if you have Alvin Kamara, right? So fantasy owners are like, that damn Taysom Hill.
Yep.
But in terms of just watching the football game and being a defense that's afraid of how to stop this guy's he's a talent that's a hard man to stop. So you have him doing his thing in the red zone. Then you got Derek Carr, and their talents and Alvin Kamara. I don't know how the team didn't blow them out. It was really disappointing to see how they're playing. That team, looking at their schedule, they should still finish strong. So the
Mm.
Saints are a team that I find that I don't want to really bet against, but they've been disappointing, I would say, in terms of their overall performances. They found ways to win these games, but they haven't performed at the level that I expect them to perform at.
The defense is where what pissed me off as that game started because they had a complete letdown early on in that first quarter. Taylor Bijan, T-Bag was moving the ball. And I was like, what are you guys doing? How are you not stopping this man at this point? But I mean, when the game started continuously moving forward, there were mistakes that did happen. I didn't like how they did play. But when you're talking about a guy like Taysom Hill, I finally have a share of him at my tight end spot. So, he's the ultimate TD vulture from guys like Kamara. But when he's not on your fantasy team, you're cursing him out. But when he's on your fantasy team, you're basically like, get it, man. Because he's just a touchdown getter, man. Running, catching, passing. It's crazy. And then, I mean, you see the evolution of snap counts with a Jamal Williams now coming back. So Alvin Kamara's snap counts actually have gone down to like 56%, if I'm not mistaken, in this past contest. Only 9 points half PPR. Did not help us out with Alvin's show, but I mean, with all the work that they gave Alvin early on when he came back from his suspension, you had to understand that it was going to be curtailed at some point. And now with Taysom taking some snaps and then Jamal Williams taking snaps, I mean, I think they're still going to be one of these teams that does move the ball when required. They're very difficult to match up against. I mean, this contest, we didn't even see Michael Thomas catch a pass. So pick your poison. I mean, finally got Chris Olave back in the mix. He scored a touchdown. And I mean, this Minnesota defense on the front seven has played very well. They do, tighten up and do not give up a lot of points to running backs. It does crowd the situation where you're thinking that this has, captain check down to Kamara all day long and then a lot of Taysom Hill again on the goal line. So it's one of these things that, okay, now with a week of practice, how do they reinstall a Jordan Addison with a Josh Dobbs? Because he was taking what the defense was giving him. It was uber simplistic. I was saying, if Dobbs does play this week, we didn't know at that time when I was breaking down the game. I said, if Dobbs plays this week, it's going to be heavy to the tight end and heavy to the slot, and then potential checkdowns to the running backs, Texas routes or out routes. It's basically what did transpire, and then on top of that, he was running with the football extremely well. Now we're going to see a full week of practice. We're going to see some installation where Addison does get more involved in this contest, and I do think he's going to be able to, support him. But, I mean, Lattimore is going to be on his ass, and it's one of those situations where you're like, I still need some time to reevaluate if I want to suggest starting him. But -2.5, where the Saints are only 2-6-1 versus the spread, I don't know, man. I'm thinking I'm taking Minnesota plus 2.5 in this one.
Ooh, that's interesting. I didn't think you were going to lean with that one, but I see why you come to that conclusion. I see how you kind of figured that out. Taysom Hill, he just adds such a threat that I don't know if the blitzing scheme in the front seven is going to affect it as much. I think that's going to be the way to attack them is through that running game and through Taysom Hill, if not through the checkdowns to Alvin Kamara. And that's what I see the Saints doing personally. And then, finding that one time or two times where they can exploit the blitz deep and hit their man Shaheed, which they've been finding ways to do, every now and then as well. And when he gets the ball, it's somewhere, it's going 40 to 50 yards every time, if it's not to the house. So he's shown that he's pretty much a Deshaun Jackson type prototype player. I think I'm going -2.5 with the Saints on this one. As much as I love what Josh Dobbs has done, I love the story. I'm a fan of what he's done. I like him potentially in fantasy football for matchups going forward here. If you need quarterbacks on some of those teams, I think that his legs provide him with some upside there and a safe floor. And if he can get acclimated with this offense quickly and get, some chemistry with Addison, we both think Addison's a phenomenal receiver. And then, JJ comes back. Now you're cooking with gas there. So I do like him potentially in fantasy football. But this week, I think now they're going to have a little bit more idea of what he does and what he's going to do with this offense. I like the Saints D to get back on track to do what they normally do. And let's not forget, it did start rocky for him. He had that safety, he had a sack fumble, he had some crazy plays there, and then had he not pulled the Mike Vick, he probably would have had 3 or 4 more sacks.
Totally.
So I am going to go with the Saints and Cameron Jordan and assume that Cam's going to grab him and get his butt to the ground.
No, fair enough. And I mean, it's one of those contests that is going to be very tricky to solve. And again, I'm with you on the point that, they're going to have some film on him, but the reinstallation with an O'Connell, I think, is actually going to do Dobbs a greater service than we've ever seen in his career. So I'm going to roll with him this week. I think they're going to do pretty well. But I mean, teams that come off the bye week, we understand, are usually rested and ready. And we got a good one with the 49ers taking on these Jacksonville Jaguars. Niners favored at -3.5. Niners are in trouble because they've dropped 3 in a row. Brock Purdy, he's been dealing with concussion problems, and Shanahan pulling his, Houdini tricks once again and dropping contests in clutch situations. CMC been playing hurt. I mean, it's all about pain tolerance with him. Debo's out. Maybe he comes back this week. And then on the flip, you got the Jags, quietly one of the better teams in the league. I mean, they're not blowing teams away by any stretch, but a nice 6-2 because, I mean, the defense is playing exceptionally well. And then you got the running aptitude of a Travis Etienne, who is, by the way, running back 3 in all fantasy football, even coming off the bye week. That tells you a lot. But, I mean, getting Calvin Ridley going, potentially Zay Jones comes back this week, even though I saw that he's still dealing with the knee issue. There's a lot of moving parts in this contest that, I mean, it's going to be very interesting, especially with the 49ers traveling to Jacksonville. West-East, never good. Where's this one going, and where are you feeling this? Because I can't wait to watch it. I struggled to pick this one a little bit.
I struggled as well. This was a tough one for me to call. I really like this game, though, on paper. I think it's an exciting game for football fans and non-football fans. The casual fan, I think, could watch this game and enjoy it. You got, Trevor Lawrence on one side. Then you got, so he's the first pick, essentially, right? He's Goliath. Then you got David on the other side, the last pick of the draft, right? In Brock Purdy. And then he's struggling. So finally, it's actually like a David situation where you can actually look at Brock Purdy like, oh, shit, you are the last pick of the draft. And things weren't perfect. So let's see how you bounce back. There's a little more pressure, some real, actual stress on him heading up to this game. So let's see if he can handle that and deal with that type of pressure. I'm really interested in this game big time. I think CMC's rest is going to help him big time. You could tell once he had that oblique injury, his production went down. So I don't think it was hard to correlate his production with, the injury and what he was going through. Prior to the injury, he was setting records. He was an MVP candidate. So we're not going to have too much, recency bias there with such a great talent. I think with that rest, he's going to be a lot closer to 100%, and that's going to be a problem. Even though Jacksonville's played great defense, CMC's a different guy. I think he can at full click, full health. He can run against any defense, in my opinion. It's not the defense is not necessarily going to hold him back. They might stop him from dominating, which is what he does to average to bad defenses, but they can't stop him from being a productive place. You can't stop him from getting at least one touchdown. We always talk about how that anytime touchdown from CMC is like free money.
Free money.
I'm probably going to bet it again. This might be the hardest week so far where people are like scared. I'm still going to bet it. CMC, anytime touchdown. The guy does it. It's free money. This game, man, I really like all moving parts. And then on the Jacksonville side, I've been a truther of Trevor Lawrence for a while now. And Calvin Ridley going there, started hot, completely went ice cold. I'm hoping that they've gone into the lab. Doug Peterson's whipped some things together, and he knows he's got an ace in the hole. You got to find ways to get him the ball. So I'm hoping they can get that clicking again. But that's a hope. There's nothing to really go off of to say it's definitely going to happen, because the way they were going into the bye, I couldn't promise you that they're going to find ways. And especially when you're winning, you're not going to be forced to do such a thing. You're going to want to, but you're not going to feel like it's a need, if that makes sense, because you're already moving the ball efficiently enough. ATN's on fire. You haven't even really needed to use Tank Bigsby, so there's a lot to look at here. I'm really interested in this game too. I can't wait to watch it.
I think the bye week came at the best possible moment for these 49ers. I mean, you got injuries piling up. You're losing contests. Your quarterback is taking a massive step in the wrong direction. He's turning the ball over. You lost your left tackle. And I mean, we all spoke about, how me and you especially, we spoke about how important a guy like CMC was to this 49ers team. We spoke about how important Brock Purdy was to this team. It's actually funny when you watch the last 3 contests without Trent Williams, you almost say that Trent is more important than those 2 men put together, because as soon as he was out, I mean, this offense completely was altered because they couldn't pick up the pass rushes. They couldn't pick up the blitz schemes like they did. That man just takes away players like nobody's business on the blind side. And look, surprisingly enough, Brock Purdy takes a headshot off the ground because he's getting blitzed by a rusher and he can't get no protection on that side. And we're surprised he went out with a concussion. I wasn't. I mean, it was due in part to the protection not being there. So getting Williams back is going to be massive for this team. Going to hold a guy like Josh Allen, number 2. I know he hates that, the second Josh Allen, but I only know one Josh Allen there, Josh, so I'm calling you the number 2. I'm sorry. That's not right. Okay, I apologize, sir, but it's, it's such one of these contests that I think that we're in for such a treat, and it could be a massive letdown overall but coming off the bye is where I do feel like this game should be able to pull in the right direction, where we should see some offense. We'll see what Trevor Lawrence does versus a very good 49ers defense still. I'm leaning with the 49ers. Bounce back week for Shanny. No way they're dropping 4 in a row, even with travel. I think Shanny's going to have these guys prepared, and CMC get ready for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, while we were talking here, while we were kind of going through the injuries and the bye week and who's coming back, and then you mentioned Trent, and I hadn't mentioned him. He wasn't someone that had crossed my mind over these last couple of weeks. I switched my pick right on the spot there. I won't lie. Full disclosure. While we were talking, I was sitting here and I was like, wait a minute, Trent Williams is coming back, eh? I didn't have that into my assessment. I completely dropped the ball there. I got to go with San Fran as well, -3 on that one. I was leaning to go with the hometown team, but I have a feeling that it's going to be a close game, first of all. I have a feeling that if I'm going to bet on someone making a mistake right now with the other team's full repertoire, I'm going to bet on Trevor probably making that mistake in this game, with Trent Williams there to protect Purdy. So, yeah, I'm going to go San Fran -3 on this one, even though the travel is something that you always got to watch. I think that they can't drop another game here. Jacksonville is sitting a little bit more comfortable in their situation and in their division. Yeah, I think you're right with this one. I'm leaning with you. Let's go San Fran -3.
So let's caveat that before you change, because right now, as of today, Shanny said he's hopeful that Trent's going to practice this week. So he has not practiced as far as I have seen. So this one will change for me also as we move forward. But even without Trent, I may stick with this one. Like I said, we're still in Thursday. We'll get the final Friday, Saturday injury reports, and you're going to see where this does go, where I do pick it final. But as of today, even with a Trent being questionable, I still lean 49ers. I just don't foresee them losing 4 in a row, Trent, no Trent. I think they're going to do more than enough. Debo should be back on this one, if I check correctly. He is not on the injury report as of today. So I think that you get a good weapon back that you can pull some coverage from an Ayuk. And I mean, I think it's going to be in this situation where the 49ers really have something to prove in this one, that they're not going to fall into the depths of a terrible slump. -3 for San Fran seems fair to me.
It's not terribly far. I think it's a little disrespectful just because Jacksonville's at home. I wonder what the spread would be if it was in San Fran in that case, considering Jacksonville's I think they're a real team, like a real contender as well. But yeah, with everything we've been discussing and the situation coming in, both coming off a bye, Shanahan needing this a lot more, I'm going to lean with you there. With or without Trent, hopefully he plays. I think that will definitely boost them up a
100%.
big chunk there. But yeah, I'm probably going to go San Fran -3 either way.
Yeah, if Trent comes back, I wouldn't be surprised to see this go up to -5. So we'll just put it there, and you guys will understand what I'm picking on Saturday. So interesting news we got is Kyler Murray is coming back to play this week after dealing with the ACL recovery. We're talking Atlanta versus those Arizona Cardinals in the desert. -1.5 for these Falcons. And the greatest aspect of these Atlanta Falcons, well, before I even get started on that, we'll say this, because the Cards also have opened up the 21-day window for a James Conner. So, I mean, that is a lot of good news to come for these Cardinals after they traded Josh Dobbs away to those Minnesota Vikings. I mean, I don't expect a whole heck of a lot from Kyler on the return at this point. And right now, I mean, being favored or being the underdog at plus 1.5. I mean, the Falcons are the biggest problem for me, and that's kind of where I want to start with is 2-7 ATS against the spread is not good. And the reason why we get confused when we bet on these Falcons is because they always seemingly build a decent lead and then give it up late on in the contest. So these are the issues. Even though they're 4-5 and they're still competitive for this division lead, 2-7 is not good for us betting public, and I'm telling y'all, I picked Minnesota +4 last week, and rightfully so, because, I mean, 2-7 is where I'm always leaning to these guys. They're just not good versus spread.
They've been like the most disappointing team to pick, one of the most disappointing teams to bet on all season. There's a couple, but they're definitely up there. They're also the most disappointing team to have fantasy people on.
Oh.
If you got Kyle Pitts, is driving you crazy. Drake London, he was injured, but he was ascending for a couple weeks there. He was showing himself. Bijan Robinson owners are going crazy, pulling their hair out. I read a stat today that he only had one carry one carry in the red zone. This is ridiculous. I don't understand how this man gets drafted so high and you're giving him one carry in the red zone. Like, I don't understand any of their usage there. It's not like Tyler Algier is producing at a high clip. He's not the Jamal Williams of 2023. So to keep this man off the field just makes no sense. But this game, it's interesting in terms of Atlanta is such a hard team to pick, but are you really comfortable picking the opponent? Like,
I know.
Both sides I'm kind of uncomfortable with. You don't know what you're going to get out of Kyler. You don't know how healthy he is or what's going on there. And if it's not him, I definitely personally don't feel good picking Clayton Tune after what I saw last week. So that one's it's an interesting one just in terms of both teams are who's suffering more, who's kind of like giving up more disappointment at this point in the season. For Arizona, though, they might not even be tanking anymore. There was this whole idea that they were going to tank for Caleb. Caleb hasn't been the guy that's been out there saying you should tank for me, right? The production hasn't been fantastic. The attitude is being questioned heavily. There's a lot of reasons to say, like, maybe he's not a guarantee splash. And if you have a Kyler Murray, maybe he's definitely not better than a Kyler Murray who you've already attached some money to. So that situation in Arizona is very interesting. I'm not too sure what they're doing.
It's very intriguing to me. And I love that you brought up Caleb because I've been watching USC all season long, and, these last 3-4 contests with Caleb and how they have not been performing. I mean, okay, we got to give him credit where it's due as well, because it's very important for this Cardinals game, because it's going to dictate what they do in the NFL draft as the season does continue to move forward. So I pivot to Kyler for a little bit to Caleb, excuse me, because, they're putting up 35 points a game in those losses. The defense is not doing the business that they require, but there are a lot of off-script things that Caleb is not doing well. Like you said, with the attitude, him crying to his mom or a relative in the stands. I mean, I think give the guy a break, okay? They put in a lot of time into what they do, and he just broke because he feels he's one of the best, if not the best, in the entire college football, on the field, whatever you want to say. But I think that was kind of his breaking point. They're out of the college football, playoff, might be out of a bowl game. It's not looking good for Caleb. And now his draft stock is going down after he was saying, the rumor had it that he wants NFL ownership when he comes into the league. So if you're drafting me, give me NFL ownership. Like, that's some big things you're requesting. That's, you got to be playing like better than Patrick Mahomes style, surefire, no questions asked pick. And now it's fallen off the ladder. Yes, could he stay another season with USC? Potentially. Will Riley return? Potentially. He's making NIL dollars, so is he really motivated to go to the NFL if the right situation does not come up? But, I mean, it is important for these Cardinals because this segment here from week 10 to the end of the season is definitely going to, at least show what these Cardinals plan to do. So it's time for Kyler to get on the field, not only just for Kyler, but for this Arizona Cardinals team. I have a damn no thought process to believe otherwise that he's going to be rusty early on. Is he going to trust his legs and take off with the football? He's got weapons. Hollywood's there. The Wilson kid's picking up steam. I mean, Trey McBride was one of my favorite tight ends coming out of his draft class 2 years ago. There's weapons on this team. But how are they going to do this with Kyler versus a defense and a secondary that's been playing very well with Atlanta? It's going to be interesting to say the least. And when you're talking about Bijan, on the other hand, when he's not getting goal line touches, when you're giving Jonnu Smith goal line touches over Bijan, there's a bloody problem going on with the Dirty Birds. Arthur Smith is the big problem right now.
It's a shock, man. I don't get it. And Arthur was on record saying that Bijan's like a fantastic decoy, essentially. He was saying, like, this is a Hall of Fame decoy, basically. Yeah. I'm putting words in his mouth, but he was basically saying, like, he's been really, really good at doing the things away from the ball, which we really want him to do. And everyone just paused, like,
what?
That's what you paid him for?
Yeah.
Like, that's what we want. That's what we drafted him for. That's what we hyped him for. That's what you made stadium pictures and said, come to the games, let's get NFL contracts. Let's put these games on TV because we want a decoy. Strangest thing I've ever heard. I'm not understanding what's going on in Atlanta, to be honest. I even saw a post today. I don't know how much you can take this just at face value, but Chad Johnson, one of my favorite guys to follow, just in terms of his comedic value, he said something about it, and he was saying that you got to look into the contract. He's like, I bet you if you find details of his contract, there might be some incentives in the touchdowns. And he's like, I don't want to, dive too deep into it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some incentives in there, and that's why they're taking him off the field. Who knows, right? Like, It's strange because Tyler Algier, like I said in the previous segment there, he's not producing. So if he was producing, I get it. I complain about Jahmyr Gibbs, but David Montgomery was producing. He was scoring. He was getting the ball in the end zone, so what's there to complain about? At the end of the day, I'm just feeling like a fantasy owner that, is being greedy. But I understand the logic behind what Dan Campbell is doing. I can't argue with it. This has no logic. You have no production off of it. You're dying in the red zone consistently. You need points, and that's your best player. So this one bothers me. But everything I just said, I'm still betting on Atlanta. I'm still taking Atlanta.
How can you not?
I don't trust what's going on with Kyler Murray coming off the injury and just everything in their zone. I don't know which trajectory they want to go. So I'm going to take Atlanta because I know they're still fighting for a playoff spot. They still have hopes to win the division there. So I'll take them one more time, pull this off. -1.5, I believe, is the spread on this one. So, yeah, I'll take Atlanta.
You know what's funny? Even worse, because we sit here and we're trying to, decipher what the hell he's thinking on this matter. Because, okay, I understand the decoy role. I was talking about it with Jahan Dotson. They utilize Jahan as the route-running decoy to pull coverage away from other guys like Curtis Samuel, like a Terry. I understand it. I get it. But at some point, especially with how he started the season, the volume was, etching in the right direction where it was like 12 carries, 15 carries, 17 touches. Like you saw this maturation process, unfold before us. And it's not like we're talking about a Jahmyr Gibbs where, I still would have question marks on a Gibbs if he's taking 250 touches from the backfield. This is Bijan Robinson. You're talking about him like a Saquon Barkley. This guy can handle 300 plus without even blinking, plus giving him work in the pass game. So it's not about volume protection, in my opinion, when Arthur Smith is suggesting that he's a decoy of sorts. It bothers me because it's almost like Ocho might have something here because you really can't put a rhyme or reason behind it other than saying, is Atlanta winning too many games where they wanted to tank and get a better quarterback? And that's the other situation that is unfolding here where they're playing the cards. Oh, we're going to, if Bijan's playing, we have a better shot to win analytically. So we're going to, curtail his touches back. I mean, when Cordero Patterson's getting back in the mix in the backfield with Bijan on the bench, you're like, well, what the hell are you guys doing here? And then Jonnu Smith ruins everybody's day because he's catching bombs down the sideline. And Arthur Smith is like, damn it, man, I didn't want you to do that. Just catch and go down. It almost feels like, okay, we're talking conspiracy theory, but there's some, method to this madness because a team that has been dire for so long, even with the Matt Ryan aging years in Atlanta, I mean, they didn't have a winner. They doubled down. They tripled down. I mean, Dimitroff was the former GM there. I'm a huge Dimitroff fan. I always loved how he built teams. But I mean, at this point, it's like, where's the reset button? And you got a guy like Bijan, you got a guy like Pitts. It hasn't come to pass with Kyle Pitts. And these guys are supreme elite talents. You need a quarterback. And this is the only other thing that I can speak of to say, yeah, we screwed up. We're winning too many games, so we have to lose. And then if you look at Arthur Smith's press conferences, there's nothing of value in them. So it just bodes to all of this shit saying, they want to lose, but unfortunately they're winning.
You might be onto something. Yeah, they might just be trying to quietly get out of the situation they're in. They obviously started the season with the intent to do something. They were fully behind Desmond Ridder. They didn't attack a quarterback in the offseason. They didn't put a true threat behind him. They went and got Taylor Heineke, which we all respect what he's able to do, but he's not a threat to supplant anybody and be a long-term quarterback in this league. He's had his shot. We've seen what his ceiling is, and that I think that's kind of fair to say it is where it is. But I think you might be onto something because it really doesn't add up. It doesn't make a lot of sense what they're doing right now, and the way they're playing the roster. And just Cordell Patterson shouldn't even get one carry. Like, let's be completely honest. Unless there's an injury or unless it's a trick play, like you're doing a reverse, there's no way he should get a traditional carry. Like, Bijan wasn't sick. His eye wasn't poked out where he was doing something on the sideline. Like, none of it makes sense. So we got to come up with some weird theories because the actions are weird, Until you give us some normal behavior, we're going to come up with weird answers.
100%. How can you argue otherwise? I don't know. It's a very tough situation in this game, but I'm with you. I'm going Atlanta -1.5 because I just think Kyler coming off he's not the best pocket passer of them all. Let's be fair. He uses his wheels to get out of the pocket. Is he going to be as mobile? We don't know. We haven't seen anything. No video, no hype video for Kyler running on the field. I got to go with the Dirty Birds on this one because I think that picking those Cardinals is no good.
You know what could burn us both is we're going to be sitting there watching the game and remembering how Atlanta couldn't chase Josh Dobbs. So if they couldn't chase Josh Dobbs,
true.
This little hamster that they call Kyler Murray. No disrespect, Kyler. I didn't mean to say it like that. But remember when they used to call Doug Martin? What was that? The muscle hamster?
The muscle hamster.
That's kind of what Kyler reminds me of is the muscle hamster. Not in a disrespectful way, but just how he's so little, but he's tough and quick. But yeah, we might get burned by that. Because I have visions of Josh Dobbs escaping that Atlanta pass rush nonstop. So Kyler, he could probably do a number on them too.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those scary things. 1.5 is nice. If this is over 2, I'm taking the Cards. Like, that's kind of where I'm falling in this one. Because 2 points, man. Field goal. Young Ho Koo. Let's go, man. Get us the dub on this one. Oh, these Atlanta Falcons, you're trouble for the betting public. But who is not, once again, is these Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Chargers. Both up, man, -2.5 for the Detroit Lions coming off the bye week. Hopefully Monty is coming back this week. I have not seen any news just yet on whether or not he's going to suit up in this contest. But it's come at the benefit. Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibby, the new Gibby. I used to call Antonio Gibson that. Now it's Jahmyr Gibb time. He's the new Gibby. Showed out, man, why he was the top pick for these Detroit Lions. 23 points and 28 points back-to-back, respectively, for your fantasy football team. And, that's no surprise to us. We are big Gibbs fans. We knew what this man could do. We saw it on film with the Bama team. And, going up against this LA Chargers club who are coming off a Monday night victory versus these New York Jets, very stout defense. And what was shocking, okay, yes, they did get the kick return by the TCU Davis kid who's got wheels. Keep an eye on that kid, by the way, all y'all. Davis is for real, too. If he gets some playing snaps as a wide receiver, I think he could be a very good slot weapon. But I digress. They didn't get a lot of yards versus these New York Jets. But, the opportunity, when they got it, they made them count. Eckler and company, and they were able to beat a very difficult New York Jets squad. But, with the Lions coming off the bye week, we could see a lot of points being flown on this board in L.A. This is one of my favorite games to at least watch, if not call, for the picks, for the spreads.
I think this could be the highest scoring game of the week, to be honest. We got 2 great quarterbacks. I know people might not want to call Goff a great quarterback. I think he's a great quarterback in the right system, and currently that's what he's in. I think this could be definitely a high scoring game, a shootout potentially. When we both like Gibbs a lot, I do believe Montgomery's coming back. Just a gut feeling there on that one. I've heard he's questionable still technically, but he's had some time to get healthy. They said early on that this was the plan all along, was to get him healthy for this week here. So I believe he is going to come back. Now, how much do they use him? Do they go back to that full load that they had prior to the Gibbs breakout? I don't think so. They know that Gibbs can handle those in between tackles. I think he's more acclimated with the playbook. I think he's more acclimated with Goff. So there's no reason to completely pull him back, in my opinion. I think they're going to find somewhere more of that 50-50 split now. And I think that's going to be good for them. It's going to keep defenses off balance, right? They're both just unbelievable running backs that offer two different things to the team. So I like this matchup there. Austin Eckler on the other side, we all know what he is. He's probably the second easiest bet in terms of when he's healthy and clicking. He's the easiest bet for an anytime touchdown behind McCaffrey. So I wouldn't be too scared or too shy on that one. Eckler, he finds his way through either a handoff or through a pass. He's so electric, he just finds ways to get in there. He's like a little pinball. If you don't wrap him up, you're not taking him to the ground. If you try to just give him a shoulder or a body hit, not going to work. Guy's unbelievable balance too. So I think this is going to be a great game. One guy that I'm a little disappointed with lately is Justin Herbert. I thought his performance wasn't the greatest against the Cowboys. And then he followed up with another performance that I thought wasn't the greatest against the Jets. And in terms of where we rank him, like, he played good enough to win the games, obviously, but I haven't thought he's played at a level of elite status. And it's been a couple weeks in a row now where I am getting concerned with his production and the receiving core, without shy of Keenan Allen. The rest of the receivers haven't stepped up yet. We're still waiting for everybody else to step up. Palmer's injured, right? I think he believes he's on IR right now.
Yep.
So I don't know if Quentin's going to be a consistent weapon right now. He had a couple plays last week where I saw, like, okay, he's starting to get acclimated. Let's see if they
flash. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, some flash, exactly, some flash. Let's see if they can pick up from there and go further. But yeah, I think this is going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to this one in terms of, like, just points scored. There's going to be a lot on the board. And then I'm probably leaning Detroit, though. I like what I see overall with Dan Campbell's team. So I am probably going to go Detroit on this one, take the 2.5 points and go with them. I like how Detroit's been playing overall. They had that slip up against Seattle, but outside of that game, they've been pretty consistent, and I've liked them all year long. And I think their consistency is going to continue.
Yeah, and I mean, God, these Chargers, they're like the Jekyll and Hyde, and and I'm with you with Herbert. Is the finger really bothering him that much to play football? And I don't even want to say that, to give him the excuse. I really don't, because it's on the non-throwing hand. So outside of, getting the snap, yes, it would hurt when it hit his hands, or, they barely go under center with it anyway. So it's not like it's a concern in that regard. But the real problem is, year after year, we continuously see this wide receiver core get decimated with injuries. And, when Mike Williams went down, I was like, not to cheer for injuries, not to say it that way, prayers up to Mike getting back healthy. But I was excited for the opportunity, I should say it that way, for a Josh Palmer to, elevate his game to another, because I've always been a Josh Palmer guy. He's been my dude since he came out of college. I said, everybody's underrating this man, and he's got the ability. He just needs the surefire wide receiver 2 targets, and he's going to show it, and he always does. The game 2 games before he hurt his knee, he had like 6 beautiful receptions, and 4 of those got taken back on penalties. His game would have been over 15 points fantasy-wise. It's just one of these things. It's just bad luck for this wide receiver core, and I don't see them really getting out of this. I mean, they tried to use a Gerald Everett a little bit more, outside of force-feeding somebody like a Keenan Allen, which they're going to defend extremely well in Detroit. I mean, that Detroit Lions defense is good. Hutch is going to come after Herbert with a bum rush, so it's one of these situations. I really do wonder also how they're going to utilize Montgomery. It's not out of the question to believe that Coach Campbell's going to suggest and say, well, Monty was the guy. You don't lose your job for injury, and we'll just give Gibbs the sprinkles of touches like we had before, which is upsetting. It's one of these games coming off the bye. Yes, they got blown out by the Baltimore Ravens. The Lions did. They won the contest to get right, and then they went into the bye week. So I'm thinking, now coming off the bye, they're rested, refreshed, rejuvenated, new playbook schemes and systems being integrated. I like Detroit minus 2.5 as well, even on the road, because, I mean, the Chargers have been up and down, inconsistent all season long, and I don't really see that changing.
Exactly. I like Detroit here. I think the Chargers' best strength, which we saw in full display is their pass rush. Their two outside pass rushers in Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. We saw what they were able to do if you have a weak O-line in the New York Jets, and if you have a quarterback that doesn't have that clock in his head naturally to get rid of the ball and doesn't have that feel. I don't think that's what they're going against this week, right? Detroit has a solid O-line, and they have a quarterback that fully understands that they have these two strengths that are coming against me. I have to get this ball out of my hands. They're not going to get 6-7 sacks and strip fumbles and all those things against this O-line and this team. So I just don't think they're going to get those extra points, the punt return that they got by your boy Davis, those extra points that they got to dominate that Jets game. I don't see that coming against Detroit. It's going to be a much more game play between the lines there. Whichever O-line and D-lines are going to win, and I'm going to go with Detroit overall. By the time this game is over, I think they're going to find a way to win by at least a field goal.
Yeah, the trenches, man. I mean, it's cliche, but the trenches are where you win football games. And, I mean, Detroit's got one of the better O-lines in the entire NFL. And we've seen where, Khalil Mack will, disappear from time to time. And it's, yes, he does get quarterback pressures. He's just not getting to the quarterback. And I think Jared Goff's, he's played in a division with the 49ers where he understands, pass rush and pressure. And he's able to do it. I'm hoping, what I'm hoping for out of this game more than anything is finally J-Mo. J-Mo, get out of your own damn way, bro. We need you to see what you can do on this field. I don't know what it is with that man, if it's a confidence issue, if he's just hit a wall and I don't know what it is, because right now it's looking really bad that he could turn into a, year 3 breakout type of player, potential bust at this point. It's not good for J-Mo.
Yeah, the J-Mo thing, I think it's just that he hasn't played a lot. He had the injury last year in college, then he had the injury in the pros, then he had the suspension. He just really hasn't played a lot of football. I think he's really just getting acclimated, if that makes any sense, or getting comfortable in the NFL system. I think it does take a rookie some time, unless you're just one of the freaks. And he's athletically, speed-wise, he is, but route running he's not an exceptional route runner. Hands aren't exceptional, so there is things he had to work on coming into the league, in my opinion. And then he wasn't able to actually get a chance to work on it in-game situations and in consistency at a consistent rate. So I think that's kind of where it's at with him. I do believe in his talent. I think he can still get to a level where he's worth the draft capital and all the hype. But this year, I don't see it happening because they're trying to actually win a championship. Detroit believes they're one of those contenders in the NFC. So I think he's not going to get the opportunity to definitely shine as much. They're going to lean on him for big plays and opportunities to open other guys up. But this is Amon-Ra, this is the running game, and this is Sam Laporta all the way.
So quick question before we get out, because now the light bulb, peaked in my head here. Detroit or Miami? Who we taking as a Super Bowl potential favorite here? Which team
if I had to pick between the two?
If you had to pick between the two, which one has the better shot to go to the Super Bowl?
I'd go with Detroit.
Ooh, I'm with you, man.
Based on the conference that they're in and the matchups that they're going to go against. And then, I think that they have a better all-around team right now. They can rely on the pass game, the run game, the defense, the secondary a little bit more consistently than what Miami's doing thus far.
Yeah, I love it. I'm with it. I think that Detroit is put together extremely well, barring any health issues. I think Hutch has got that defense running on full, and he's the bread and butter that gets it going. He's the engine that gets it move in the Motor City. How you like that? That's a new T-shirt for y'all. But anyway, so there's going to be some good contests this week. We chopped up some of y'all. Obviously, stay tuned for the full picks on Saturday from myself and Mr. Eric Sojash. Always a pleasure, my man. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome time. Can't wait till we do it again. These games are going to be fun. Can't wait to watch them and talk some smack.
We definitely talk a lot of smack these days, but Justin Fields' bet is actually going to be ended this week for all y'all that remember from the first show, because he's going to miss his 4th game. I'm out of $50. I don't have to send Justin Fields a bill, but nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.